Well, can we still even consider it K-pop? For legal reasons. I'm kidding.
땡땡 코코투.
Hi, welcome. My name is Angelina, and today we are doing an episode of K-pop Investigations, where I basically take a subject and do a little bit of a deep dive into it and share with you my super scientific results. As a leading K-pop scientist and self-proclaimed K-pop boomer, let's get started. Little disclaimer, this video isn't meant to gatekeep what is and what isn't K-pop, but I did want to take a look at the dialogue surrounding English songs within it by looking at their history, as well as two recent songs that have blown up, Dynamite by BTS and Ice Cream by Blackpink. Because honestly, I keep seeing the question being brought up. The moment there's too much English in a K-pop song, the moment a song kind of blows up internationally, people start questioning, well, can we still even consider it K-pop? Is K-pop changing in a way that is making it lose its charm? And among other things, I thought we could also talk about whether or not BTS are actually part of their own category aside from K-pop, because that's also a question that I see brought up a lot. Actually, before we get started, you're still not allowed to subscribe to this channel, but you can check out my second channel. We're having a fun time over there. Kevin just debuted, but you can, of course, like, comment, and share this video with friends you don't have. You can also join my channel memberships by clicking the join button next to the subscribe button, and follow me on Instagram, and this is allegedly my Twitter, though I can neither confirm nor deny that. Okay, so before we properly get into it, please know that this is not a conversation about who paved the way, because I know I'm gonna get canceled if I share any of my thoughts on that. I'm gonna need more preparation for a video like that. Maybe we can talk about it when I'm ready to fall off the face of the earth. But I genuinely want to have a conversation, because paving the way, there are many things that can be done to contribute to paving the way. I think it would be a really interesting conversation to have genuinely without, being like, no, it's just cut that part out because people are going to misunderstand. For real, this is a question that's always being brought up. When Alexa came out and she has these kind of bilingual English-Korean songs, people were like, well, is this really K-pop? Can you really consider this K-pop? Even when Somi came out with What You Waiting For, people were questioning, is this really K-pop? Going as far as saying that the song sounds so Western and mostly has an English chorus, and it's really interesting to me because on one hand, there are the type of fans who demand for English content from their idols. They demand for English versions of songs. They demand for English albums, which can be quite problematic. But then when artists themselves decide to do so, and the minute there's like too much English within a song, it's like people are so quick to drop their faves. And it's like, excuse me, are you new here? Actually, there are some people who think I'm new to K-pop, and I'm like, that's really not the insult people go for initially, but I mean, but alas, let us start with a little bit of K-pop history. Because if you've been around long enough, it will come to no surprise to you that English within K-pop songs, or completely English K-pop songs, is actually nothing new. And I have a K-pop PhD. I'm a K-pop boomer. Fill in the rest in the comments as you please. So, with this seemingly sudden emergence of English and K-pop songs, it seems a lot more people are starting to question said groups that are releasing those songs. And honestly, a lot of people wondering if K-pop will lose its appeal. Blackpink released Ice Cream, which is a collab with Selena Gomez, and it's mostly in English, even though there's a little bit of a Korean rap. And BTS released a song called Dynamite, which is entirely in English. We also have this paired with the fact that they aren't traditionally promoting these songs on music shows as people tend to do. Yet even at that, still having music show wins for those very songs, which will play a part later on in this conversation. So instead of, debuting your song on Inkigayo, we can see at least Dynamite performed at the VMAs. And Even How You Like That, though it was a Korean song, was debuted on the Jimmy Fallon show. So in that sense, yes, it is different. The English part, not different. But promoting it at such different venues, yeah, of course, that is quite a little bit different. But I have a secret to tell you. I'm kidding. I'm actually kidding. I'm kidding. For legal reasons, I'm kidding. I actually don't know who did it first, but it has been done a lot in the past. Either a group just having a complete song in English that is its own song on its own, or an English version of a song that already exists in Korean. Much like K-pop idols would promote in Japan and have Japanese versions of songs or original Japanese songs, the same goes for English songs. And I know people will point out the difference between promoting in Japan and wanting to expand in more of an international sense. And I'm in no way saying that Western validation is at all needed or even required, and we'll get into that later, but I did want to show some songs that I remember from K-pop that were entirely in English. Some never promoted more than having just a music video, and some promoted on American TV shows as well. Big Bang had a song called Number One. Wonder Girls famously had Nobody. They also had Like Money, which was a collab with Akon. Love me, babe, wherever you are. And then The DJ Is Mine. The DJ is mine, and girl, you're wasting your time. We also have Miss A, who had a song called Love Alone. I don't wanna be in love alone. Girls' Generation also had a song called The Boys. Girls' Generation make you feel the heat. And of course, we have 21 as well, who have Can't Nobody. Can't nobody hold us down. Can't nobody hold us down. And even Take the World On with will.i.am, which we don't have to talk about right now. So the point is, this actually isn't anything new. We've seen this for a really long time. The only difference is the level of globalization from now compared to then. So to answer that question, with all this English in K-pop songs, will K-pop lose its appeal? I would argue that maybe we could have asked that 10 years ago. So I would ask, do you like K-pop now? Because it's pretty much the same. But nevertheless, people are still asking the same question. If a song is in English, sang by K-pop stars, is it still K-pop? And honestly, I think it really depends on what kind of crowd you ask, because definitely I've seen online people saying that, BTS is BTS pop, they're not K-pop. If you're a BTS fan, you're not a K-pop fan, you are an ARMY. Which is really interesting to me, because I don't know how that happened. I don't know when or what point in time that became a thing, but apparently it is. And I asked you guys on my community tab, and it seems that a lot of you were so adamant that yes, of course it's K-pop. What do you mean? Why are you asking this question? Some people were getting mad at me. I'm like, listen, I think it's K-pop. I'm shooting out hypotheticals. I'm a second gen stan. Don't at me. Do you really think that I think? No, something's fishy here. But I was really surprised that a lot of you were so surprised at that question, because I've seen a lot of people claim that BTS is its own genre. Because I've seen a lot of people claim that BTS are their own category. I don't even consider BTS K-pop anymore. They're a whole different genre, which is why I love them. I'm gonna call it BTS pop. BTS songs stopped being K-pop songs since Idol. So it's not completely random to bring this up as a question. Is BTS still K-pop? By extension, is Blackpink still K-pop? If we're seeing an emergence of people starting to put them above K-pop. And specifically with Blackpink, we see that they've recently come out with the album, their first full-length album, but it seems that almost half of it is entirely in English. And in response to that, I've heard a lot of people expressing that this distances Blackpink from the label of K-pop. This album doesn't feel like a K-pop album. Or even people expressing that it just sounds different. But I'd still love to know your feelings about this. Do you believe in BTS pop or BP pop? Or do you think it's bordering on gatekeeping when people bring things like this up? Because first of all, it is hard to define K-pop, right? Because if it's not about language, then what is it about? If idols can promote in Japan and promote Japanese songs, then it's still not considered J-pop. And we can even have Spanish versions of songs like Hypnotize.
Ella es Ana Miro. Y está. Hola.
And we have English versions of songs, and they're still considered K-pop. Then, what defines K-pop? And I think SM might have been one of the first to kind of push the boundaries of what the West kind of considers K-pop, with groups like XOM, which was quite revolutionary for its time. And actually, before XOM, we did have a group like Miss A from JYP Entertainment. And what was really interesting about Miss A is that half of the members were not Korean. And JYP's slogan for this group was essentially Made in Asia. But that definitely brought up a lot of questions back then. Questions that honestly aren't really as common anymore. And I've brought this up in past videos. But when you see non-Korean Asian members in K-pop groups today, you often don't think anything of it. But back then, some people did act like it was kind of a threat to K-pop's purity. But back to XOM, who debuted after Miss A, it seemed people were quite excited for this group, and I do think it was quite an interesting concept. But we also definitely see how SM continues to expand on such a concept to this day, even to groups now like Wavy. Even JYP with the creation of Niju has brought up a lot of questions on whether, or not this is actually K-pop, or is it J-pop, or what is it? Because these groups do make songs in other languages, but they can also make Korean versions of those songs, and ultimately, at the end of the day, they are under Korean companies. And it seems it's very much accepted amongst fans regardless. For example, in my end of month K-pop review, I've added Wavy in the past, and in the future I do think I would add Niju as well. And at least for Wavy's case, they do promote on Korean music shows. So it definitely doesn't seem like they're entirely separate, even though people do end up questioning them quite often. Just like songs like Dynamite and Ice Cream tend to be questioned a lot, but it seems for Korean music shows at least, they're still accepted, they're still K-pop. I think it's a complicated question. I think it's a lot more complicated than just saying because you think there should be more boundaries that they suddenly just exist for you. As we've seen in the past, Big Bang is still a K-pop group if they release a song like Number One, and they're still a K-pop group and releasing K-pop music if they release a song like Tell Me Goodbye. And a K-pop group is still a K-pop group even if most of the members aren't actually born in Korea or Korean. So in my opinion, obviously, it's still K-pop. And if the artists themselves want to make songs in other languages and have that desire to do so, I don't think it should be an issue. But when fans themselves demand that the content they consume be in English, they have this sense of entitlement that their idols owe them something in a language that they speak. That's when I think it can cross a line for sure. But let's read some of your opinions. What we call K-pop, Koreans call idol music. These artists trained so hard to become idols. It's taken years of hard work and training and completely discrediting what they've achieved to say that they aren't K-pop artists. Both of these groups followed the same formula, for lack of a better term, to be formed as other idol groups did. Arbitrarily deciding that a group is or isn't K-pop isn't something Becky, 12, from LA can decide to do. Saying that your fave isn't K-pop also makes it seem like they're above other groups, as if K-pop or listening to K-pop is bad or a shameful thing. Anyone who says BTS or Blackpink aren't K-pop groups are just people who are trying to pass for music snobs, when in reality they have about as much knowledge on the topic as your average milk carton. Obviously, K-pop has changed and it evolves all the time, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. And obviously, I think BTS and Blackpink are very much still K-pop and are also impactful in the K-pop industry. K-pop groups have been doing English versions for years now. Did people stop thinking of Wonder Girls as K-pop when they did Nobody and opened for the Jonas Brothers? Did people stop considering Girls' Generation K-pop when they did The Boys and promoted it on American talk shows? No. The answer is no. I can only assume the people that are complaining about K-pop changing haven't been here very long. So yeah, I think no matter what, there's always going to be people questioning the legitimacy of K-pop, even though it hasn't technically changed that much. Yes, globalization is a huge thing. Yes, there are huge strides that have been made within K-pop. But in terms of language, in terms of Western collaborations, from 10 years ago to now, maybe yes, there are a lot more, but it hasn't changed in such a way that would make it so far off from K-pop's original concept. Okay, so admittedly that is a little bit reductive because K-pop has actually changed a lot, and I actually have a video idea about that, just what aspects especially have changed, but I would never go as far as saying that it's simply not K-pop anymore. And yes, this is the thumbnail concept picture. Don't at me about the armpits. You guys have been asking me to talk about this for months now, so we're gonna finally dive into it. But I would love to know what you think in the comments down below. Why do you think more and more people are starting to gatekeep K-pop, are starting to ask, is this really K-pop? This is too English to be K-pop. This is too westernized to be K-pop. Why do you think there are so many more people bringing that up? I would love to know what you think. As for me, I'm gonna get going. Like, comment, and share this video with friends you don't have. You can also subscribe to my second channel. I will be uploading weekly, maybe even twice a week. I don't know. But I basically do like listening parties. I'm gonna do maybe some like very little makeup and skincare. I don't know yet. You can also join my channel members by clicking the join button next to the subscribe button. This is basically just another way to help support this channel on a monthly basis. You can get a cute Kevin emoji next to your name. You can also get potentially sneak peeks and to see videos earlier depending on what level you choose. These are the lovely individuals who help support my channel every single month. Thank you so much for your support. As for me, I'm gonna get going, so I will see you guys next time. Bye!